These are pieces that I brought back from a show in Pacifica that we were asked to do one piece a day for 50 days. And so I chose people, you could do any type of media you wanted, so you could do paintings or drawings or whatever. And I chose to do photography and photos of San Francisco architecture. And these were the resulting pieces. And so I did photos and then decided to mount them on boards that were covered in maps, in San Francisco maps, mostly muni maps and things that show the public transportation system. And then I also covered it with a piece of plexiglass to kind of protect everything and protect the photo. And then the final was, they were all hung in a big grid. So there was 50 of them total. And so they were all hung in a big grid, if you could imagine. So this was just coming down from it, and so now I'm working to rehang them here in the studio for our upcoming open studio show. And so it's been fun. I'd never done a project like this before that was, I like daily art practices, but I hadn't done one this involved and, or that ended up involving the mapping and the covering of the pieces and things like that. And so it was an interesting challenge, and so I feel like it was a good show and good project to work on overall.
And so, why did you choose the maps as the background?
I felt like it was an interesting way to represent the city in something that would give a pattern and a color and a texture to the background, rather than just painting it a flat color or using it just black or white or whatever. And so, I don't know, I thought it added a little bit more dimension to what I was representing in the photos. So it seemed to work hand in hand with it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I like the look of maps anyway, and so I'm sort of designed to that kind of geometry and the lines and things of it anyway, the lines and the words. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I find that in my photos, a lot of the geometric angles, so a lot of that was echoed in the maps and the design of it. But sometimes, like I said, sometimes kind of intentionally and other times unintentionally. So, because I worked on the backing mapping part separate and then lined them up with the photo. So I wasn't always planning which one would go on which type of map. And I used probably about 3 or 4 types of maps, like the different ones I sort of found as I was going around and taking the photos. And and I did limit myself to one shot a day that I would post and say was the shot for the day. And then so each night I would post it on Instagram and Facebook at the same time. And so to kind of officially say, this is the piece for the day of whatever, building I decided represented that day well. So, yeah, it was a neat project to work on. Along with that, on some of the big days, like on the 10s and the 25 mark, I also said I was going to do certain buildings. And so this was day 15, but it was San Francisco MoMA, the building of San Francisco, top of SF MoMA. And so on different pivotal days, I did like on day 25, I did the Transamerica building. Day 20, it was, I think, the De Young Museum, and one of them was the Legion of Honor, and 40 was the Palace of Fine Arts, and things like that. So I tried to make it, each sort of milestone of the days would be a more of an iconic image for it. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and I ended up finding or going to buildings that I hadn't been to before, and like it was the first time I went to the top of Coit Tower, even though I've lived in San Francisco 20 years and, grew up in the Bay Area and everything else. And so it was just because of this project that I ended up going on, top of the Coit Tower with all the tourists in the universe. So it was fun to experience places new and to kind of feel like you are a tourist, even though it is my hometown and my, a place I'm way more familiar with. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of, and then try to get interesting angles out of them and interesting photography. Oh, all the photos they were all taken on my phone, on my iPhone 4S to be precise. And so yeah, people are, I guess, continually amazed by that, but I feel like the camera's gotten a lot better, and so now it's more possible to do good or decent photography with the camera phones. So and it's super handy, and I enjoy the convenience more. I used to do a lot of film photography, and so I have handled bigger cameras, and so it is nice to have a lighter, more compact thing that you can kind of just throw into your pocket and when you're done. So I'm not as used to carrying around the big camera anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done a lot of photography. So even though I've been painting more lately, I've always taken photos for a long time as well, since probably high school. I got more serious and bought more real cameras and things like that at that time, I would say. And so it's been interesting that I sort of never thought of it as the original art piece, and I would use it as subject matter for paintings or things to base other things on. And so it's interesting now to be sort of showing it as the primary medium. So it's an interesting switch for me. Yeah.
So have you primarily been a painter?
I'm a self-taught painter, and so I started painting probably in 1998 or 99, I want to say, or maybe even a year or two earlier. But yeah, so it kind of progressed from there. But yeah, I'd done creative writing in college, and so I was more into writing, even though, like, again, I'd always done some photography, and then started to paint, and did primarily the painting for the last, what was that, 15, 20 years or whatever.
Oh.
So.
So do you think that the painting informed your photography?
Yes, definitely. That's what's sort of interesting to watch, how it's sort of affected it. And I do think my editing, the way I use color and the way I do my editing of my photos, is definitely related to sort of the training and the practice of painting, I think, because you are developing your eye and looking for a lot more about lines and textures and colors and things. So, where before I would, like I said, take a lot of photos, I didn't always worry that much about editing them or, cropping them or doing anything digitally with them or things like that. And so now, sort of, bringing that stuff does feel like more the painter's eye, kind of wanting to crop things and look for certain lines and get something out of it different. So, but yeah, so it's been, like I said, an interesting evolution. But I've been really enjoying it. So it's been fun to work on it, and people have been noticing that I use the same colors, or I find the same colors in my photography that I was already using in my paintings. So older paintings, I guess. And so it's you can kind of see my same color palette, coming through with a lot of these. So.
Oh, yeah,
So it's
definitely.
interesting that way.
Yeah, definitely a lot of, like, gold and certain types of blue. Yeah, definitely.
This is a postcard of some older artwork, and I sold one of the paintings, but not, or this one's still available, but it's the same color palette. And so that's what I was thinking, that some of these older paintings I did, more with stencil work, still have the same sensibility as the photos or that I'm doing, and so I find that interesting. But I guess, you know, it's the same hand and the same eye, so I guess you're bound to get that repetition. It's just surprising to me too.
Hello. Today we're going to learn how to make an acrylic transfer. First, you need a print, either a Xerox copy or something out of a laser printer or an inkjet printer or any kind of a copy on paper. Now, you get some clear acrylic medium and you paint it over the printed side only. Do not paint the acrylic medium onto the back. And it doesn't seem to matter if you use acrylic gel medium or liquid medium, and it doesn't matter if it's matte or glossy. You just thoroughly paint the medium over all of the area of the print that you want to transfer onto the new surface. And by the way, you can even draw or paint stuff onto the print before you put the medium on it. For example, right here I drew a line and wrote something with a pen. You'll be able to see it up close later. Now, lay the thoroughly covered print face down onto the new surface that you want to transfer it onto, and press the whole thing down very thoroughly. Try to get out all air bubbles and just smooth it down as well as you can with your fingers. And you will find that some of the medium might squeeze out of the edges, and that's fine. You have to not mind if some of the medium squeezes out onto your new surface. If you don't want it to squeeze out, then don't use too much, but I highly recommend doing some experiments at first so that you understand how all of these materials work. Be sure you wash your brush thoroughly with soap and then rinse it out thoroughly, because any acrylic-based paint or medium, if it dries in your brush, that's it. Your brush will be permanently ruined. Let the project dry at least 24 hours. I generally let mine dry at least 48 hours or more. That way the acrylic medium can thoroughly dry and cure so that it has maximum adhesion to the printed surface. And this is how it might look. So after the transferred print is thoroughly dry for at least a day or two, apply water to the back of it. And you can either pour it on as I've done, or you can spray it with a spray bottle. But the thing is to make sure it gets nice and saturated, and you could let it sit for a few seconds, and that way it softens the paper backing. And then you will be able to start peeling off the backing, which is really just a layer of paper. So, as you can see, and you may have figured out, the print is now reversed. So you have to keep that in mind if you don't want it to reverse. And the way you would do that is simply make the print backwards before you transfer it. And you can see here these the lines and the little words written on the paper, those I wrote on with a pen. So you could draw or paint on your print before transferring it as well. But if you have a thick layer of paint, you may not get as much print. And the next thing you can do is, if you you'll notice that you can't really peel off all the paper, and sometimes when you peel off all the backing, it takes off some of the print. So you can just put some kind of oil on it. I'm using poppy oil here, which is just a seed oil. It's not toxic or doesn't have a lot of fumes. This is a finished large photographic transfer I did, and I colored it with oil paint afterwards. And you can also do this with, da-da, a color print. Yes. And you'll notice on this one, I transferred it to a rough surface and some of the image came off, and I didn't mind because that's part of how that one looked. And lastly, here's another large black and white. You can see there where some of the image rubbed off. And then I painted the black area over with oil paint. So that's it for today's how-to. Enjoy your acrylic transfer making.
Come to the swing and fashion lunch. 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 Come on in and have a seat. Sit in the retro mid-century chair. Come to the swingin' fashion lunch with food from Boston Market. Come to the swing and fashion lunch. 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 Look out the window while you eat your swingin' fashion lunch. Look up at the ceiling while you eat your swingin' fashion lunch. Why swingin'? 'Cause it's on a swing, hanging from the rafters. It's swinging from the rafters. Why fashion? 'Cause it's by some fashion ladies. It's a swingin' fashion lunch. It has high fashion above and low art below. It's a swingin' fashion lunch. Swingin' fashion lunch. Come to the swingin' fashion lunch with some fashion ladies. And even a real plant. The swingin' fashion lunch. Here's what happens when you come in. You see a swing with a lunch hanging from it, and you see some fashion ladies at the swingin' fashion lunch. And some figures and some art on low. And some fashion on high. Come on in and have a seat at the swingin' fashion lunch.